Hey, Cavs fans, we are back sooner than I guess we expected because we kind of joked yesterday that it might be July 4th. We'll all get thrown off while we're at our 4th of July barbecues. But we're here. We're back one day later with a chance to talk about the big news of the offseason, really the biggest news of the offseason for the Cavs. We know Kenny Atkinson was a big deal, that hire, but signing Donovan Mitchell to an extension has been item number one on the Cavs to-do list. They get that done today with the announcement that he signs a 3-year, $150.3 million extension. It also comes with a player option in that third year, so the 27-28 season, which basically means that Mitchell has a chance to re-enter free agency when he hits that 10-year mark of his career, and that is important, as Spence and I will talk about here in a second. But so I think the basics of this, Spence, are like, look, it's not the 4-year extension that maybe fans are hoping for, but it's a commitment. It's a commitment from a player who's a top 15 player in this league and doesn't have, the natural native ties to Northeast Ohio in the way LeBron did. Like, we know why that was the thing that brought him back here when he came back and why he kept resigning here during that second stint. But this is different. Like, this is a top 15 player that you sort of took a risk to trade for, now committing to the franchise longer term. And does he see the end of this deal? Does he not? That all to me is irrelevant right now. I think it's just about the idea that, hey, the Cavs made this trade, and it feels like now you're getting the fulfillment of it when you gave up all the picks and everything you gave up, because he's saying, hey, I'm bought in. I want to see what we can do with this team.
Yeah, and you look at his Instagram feed and you look at his Twitter feed, and it seems like he's just been so sick and tired of hearing the same thing over and over again. Well, 3 years, $150 million extension, player option, obviously, in the last year. Seems like he's pretty invested to me. And we were trying to read the tea leaves on what Kobe Altman was saying at the press conference yesterday. And maybe he's just not a very positive public speaker, because he was saying everything and the right things, and that he was, very much so pro Cleveland. And what happened? The extension is going to be signed on July 6th. The terms have been agreed to. And hey, the national media, the national pundits, I think for another year at least, can kind of back off. And this isn't, like you said, this isn't a for sure thing to say, oh, that he's going to be here for the rest of his career and all that. You got to keep the front office on their toes. I think that's why a 2-1 made a lot of sense. I think I brought up the 2-1 during the season. That would make some more sense, just because you can maximize your earnings, and in that 10th year, get 35% of the salary cap and make sure that you get the most paid that you can. But in this case, I think this is a vote of confidence. He had a part in playing what, coach was going to come in here, and he talked to Kenny Atkinson, as we know, in Los Angeles at his elite camp. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And you have, one thing out of the way. And there's more to come, obviously, in this offseason within their own organization. And this is a good step. You got the head coach. You got the deal done with Donovan Mitchell once he signs again on July 6th. And you got your draft pick out of the way. So, 3 for 3, I think, here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and you bring up the organization side of this. Like, I think Kenny Atkinson talked yesterday. He used the word partnership, right? When he was talking about how he's learned to work with star players and manage those egos, something that didn't necessarily go well for him in Brooklyn. And then he goes and, he's on Ty Lue's staff, he's on Steve Kerr's staff, and he learns how these guys do it. And now he's trying to bring some of those things that he picked up to the table here as he takes over as the head coach in Cleveland. And along the lines of a partnership, this move felt like it was in that ilk. Like it was a partnership agreement. It was Donovan saying, I'm committing to you for the foreseeable future. I feel good about like the direction of the team, but I'm only doing a 2-1 because I want to keep the pressure on of, hey, I have some options down the road here if things don't go the way that we want. And if you're not doing the things that I think are advantageous to us winning. So you're right. Like, it keeps the pressure on the organization, but I do think that Kobe Altman and this front office are fully aware of the fact that they do need to go out and keep making the team better any way they can, keep trying to build around Donovan. And in the same vein, like, him signing the extension at least it's a sigh of relief, right? Like, it takes some pressure off of them where they don't have to think about that part of it anymore. And they now have a sense of direction of, okay, we got Donovan Mitchell locked in. We know we're going to build around him, and we just kind of keep moving forward and see what we can do.
I think it's a bigger sigh of relief for the fans than it is for the front office. I think that the front office was very confident this was going to happen in the first place. Fans just, they've got PTSD when it comes to guys leaving the city. It's just a thing, like anytime there's a murmur, even if it's somebody that's not credible. I'm not saying that wasn't the situation here. There was very much so the loudest noise of the last 2 years about Donovan Mitchell and the open secret that he wanted to play in New York and all that. But there's just something about knowing somebody could potentially have a foot out the door that really just hits Cleveland fans in the wrong place. And in this situation, I'll come out and say it. Everything that Donovan Mitchell did over the last 2 seasons has been the right thing. He's been saying the right things. He hasn't been committal, in his words per se, but he's always, even when the cameras are off, taking guys off to the side, talking to guys in the locker room, giving them pointers, being hard on them when he needs to. This is the kind of guy who's committed here and wants to build the best possible way to get to a championship. And, some people might think that's crazy if you run back the same roster and you have the same things. But I'll tell you what, if you have a coach that has different principles and they have different, philosophies, and we talked about Kenny Atkinson wanting to up the pace even more, shoot more threes, do all these different things, then maybe it can work. Who knows? But that's the thing though. Like, Donovan has never had one foot out the door. He's never had that kind of mentality. He's been where his feet are, and that's the thing that makes a superstar and makes a leader. And again, Donovan's shown nothing to say that he isn't. And I think that's something that it's hard for some fans to come to grips with because they're just so used to being burned. But this guy didn't want to burn him. And you even look again at his Instagram. He's like, I'm so glad that this bleep was over, and it's funny. Over the expletive, they put the word shenanigans in the.
I saw that. I did notice that.
But now that that the dust has been settled, just want to say, Kenny Atkinson was talking like Donovan was going to come back the whole time.
Yeah.
Mike Gansey was talking about the same thing. Same with Kobe Altman. And even if you look at, Donovan Mitchell's Instagram posts and stuff like that, there was never an indication that this guy didn't want to be here, at least now. So that's I think something that it's probably hard for the national talking heads and whatnot to come to grips with because they've been trying to push the machine.
Cavs fans have kept receipts, my friend.
They better have. They better have because it's annoying. And it annoyed Mitchell. So if it annoyed Mitchell, of course it's going to annoy Cavs.
It was definitely getting back to him. He mentioned that in the Instagram post. So if anybody's wondering why the 2-1, why he's trying to get to 10 years, this matters significantly because when he hits the 10-year mark of his career, he can now see an increased amount of the salary cap come in his favor when he signs an extension. So it jumps up to 35% of the salary cap. And as we know in sports, we see this in the NFL, we see it in the NBA, especially the cap generally just goes up, especially with the TV deals that get signed. And the NBA is just working on a new one right now. As we know, it's been very public, talked about with the whole TNT thing. So because of that, Mitchell wants to be able to hit the market again or have the option to hit the market again when he's in year 10 of his career and get that increase in salary cap money. So this is what in 2027, when he could re-sign as a free agent year 10 of his career, he has a chance to sign a projected 5-year, $380 million contract, which equates to basically $65.5 million that first year, and then goes upwards of 70 to 80 million by the tail end of that deal in 2031 and 2032. So
big numbers.
That's why this matters for Donovan, because
look at Tatum just made too. That's probably a good indicator of the kind of money that would.
But this gives Mitchell a chance to get the big payday again down the line here when he signs that Supermax. But it also keeps the pressure on the organization of hey, when that time comes, if we're not going in the right direction, I have a chance to go somewhere else. So like I said, I think again, it makes sense from both sides as to why they came to this conclusion. And so that's where we're at with this. Spence, real quick, I don't want to take too much of people's time because I know everyone's reacting to this, and we appreciate those of you who turn to us for immediate reaction. Thank you guys for that. You also did share in the aftermath of this that there's another contract extension that's being worked on right now. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was just told that now that the Donovan Mitchell stuff's out of the way, the head coach is out of the way, the next order of business is Evan Mobley. And I can confirm that they are negotiating with Evan Mobley right now in extension talks. It's probably going to get a max extension. If you look at the framework of Scotty Barnes's deal, it's about 270 million over 5 years. He got 224.9 guaranteed. So something along that range, I think, would probably make sense for Evan Mobley. Someone they want to keep around here as a cornerstone. And again, we talked about it at length yesterday. Kenny Atkinson just raving over the ability of Evan Mobley, not just, as a defensive player, but somebody who's fast, somebody who can have the ball in their hands more and be more of a focal point of this offense. And I think their commitment to Evan, whenever they get their extension done, is going to show you that they believe a lot in this young man. And he's only 22 years old and hasn't even, what's before not even scratching the surface, because that's where Evan is right now. And, Darius Garland, same thing. Like, he's barely scratching the surface too. If he's still around, and that's not just posturing from Kobe Altman. But I'm telling you, just like we talked about yesterday, it sounds like they're just going to run this back. They're going to run this back and, add some auxiliary pieces here and there, and really, depend on their depth to get them to the next level. And just a change in philosophy. Same guys together, have the defensive principles, switch up the offense, and try to do it again.
Yeah, and I do think the other thing with Mobley that's significant is once they re-sign him, likely he's going to take the Cavaliers into that luxury tax, which we know starts to restrict what you're able to do. Right now, they have a non-taxpayer mid-level exception they can use. Once you get into the luxury tax, that goes away. It gets cut in, I think, like about half or so. So changes the math on some of the levers that you can pull. And then from there, you get into like the aprons, the first apron, the second apron, which restrict you even more in terms of what you can do. So yeah, this is all very relevant to just the outlook of this team this year, but also moving forward into the future and what the Cavs will have at their disposal. Guys, like I said, we didn't want to take too much of your time. Great analysis from Spence on the Mobley situation and obviously talking about Donovan. But I do think this is and should be treated like a monumental day for the organization, a star player.
Pull out your receipts. Pull them out.
Yeah.
Just go nuts. Go nuts on social media right now.
Absolutely.
Every single show, every single tweet. Just make sure that you're freezing cold takes, all of them. All of them.
It's a day to celebrate because a star player, top 15 player in this league that wasn't LeBron James, who was born in this area, has committed to the organization, and there's a sense of direction for the Cavs now moving forward. Guys, we appreciate you jumping on in with us as always. I hope we get a chance to do this again soon, maybe about some free agent moves. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, you can follow more content like this, including Kenny Atkinson's introductory press conference. We had Jalen Tyson's introductory press conference. All that is over at the Cavs Insider YouTube channel. And, of course, all of our work that we're writing each and every single day over at si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. Guys, thank you so much. Enjoy today. Celebrate a little bit. And we'll talk to you guys again soon.